Hi everyone, my name is Grace.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to our El Halqa. Now you may be wondering what a bunch of UNE students from Maine are doing up on stage in Tangier, Morocco performing in El Halqa. Well, we have been living here for the past 4 months, fully engaging in the culture here while continuing our studies for college. We wanted to show our appreciation for Tangier, Morocco through a traditional El Halqa.
Now, before we perform our El Halqa, you should probably know a little bit of history about what an El Halqa is. An El Halqa is a type of performance art that's been used throughout Morocco for many years. It usually involves a circle of people sitting around a single performer, whether that be a singer, a dancer, an acrobat, a snake charmer, or anybody else. While it can be used for big things such as social change, it can also be used to simply tell a story. For us UNE kids, we'd like to use it to tell you a collection of stories of our time abroad.
For most of us, it was our first time outside of the United States. For others, it was our first time in Africa. But for the majority of us, it was our second or third time trying to study abroad. We finally made it, and we are ready to face every challenge that posed its way. Hi, so good to see you.
For one of us, Carson, she came a few days early with her mom to settle down in Tangier. She had a really interesting experience at a guest house and a really strong impression of Moroccans right off the bat.
My mom and I flew into Rabat a few days early so that I could settle in and explore. We made our way to the Casbah Rose, which is in the Medina of Tangier, and we knocked on the door of the guest house. A short, stubby man with the widest grin I've ever seen walked on out. He asked if we had a reservation, and when we told him we did, he said,
"I would welcome you even without a reservation."
He welcomed us in for tea and biscuits, and over that, we made some small talk. He asked what I was doing in Morocco and was surprised to hear that I would be studying abroad for 4 months and living a Moroccan life. He then took my extremely heavy suitcase up the steep marble staircase. That night, he recommended my mom and I the best tagine in all of Morocco. We went to Sheikh Hassan, which is right in the Medina, and had exactly that, the best tagine in all of Morocco. After his shift, he came by to make sure that we had gotten the best service possible. The next day, he came back and he gave me his number and told me that he would be my Moroccan dad the whole time I was here. We then tried to give him a 500 dirham tip, which he refused every time because he told us that he was just being his authentic self and he didn't think he was being kind enough that we should be giving him extra. 500 dirham, which is $50 US, was a lot more than he got paid every day, so we thought that that was more than enough, but he still tried to refuse. He was just very kind and hospitable, which we found true for all Moroccans.
Well, Carson's story is just one example of us settling into Tangier. Many of us had very similar experiences. We figured the best way to overcome culture shock and the fact that we missed our family and friends back home would be to just throw ourselves into the culture here. So we started exploring the souks in the Medina and walking the streets. My friend Mary is going to tell her story of her first experience at an authentic Moroccan pizza shop.
One of the first weeks here in Morocco, me and my friend Bella decided that we wanted to explore a little bit more. So we made our way to Mexico Street, and when we got there, we found out we were extremely hungry. We decided to go to Pizza Lux, a little pizza shop that's tucked into the side of Mexico Street. And once we went inside, it was so loud and chaotic in there. We made our way to the front counter, but there was a mob of people there, and we had to fight our way through to make it to the front. Once we finally made it to the counter, we didn't even have time to look at the menu before we were given pizza and the cashier took my money. Once we had pizza in hand, we were pushed out of the crowd, and we had to find somewhere to eat. Every single table was taken, and so we were looking for somewhere to sit, and eventually one group got up, but the table was immediately taken by someone else. And the employee made fun of us, saying that we would have to be a little bit faster if we wanted to eat here. So we ate standing in the center of the restaurant, and even then it was the best pizza I had ever had and a super memorable experience. Another crazy experience we had at the beginning of our time here in Morocco were my friends at the rug shop in the Medina.
So us and some friends were going through the Medina one day looking for a traditional Amazigh rug shop because Bella was doing a sociology presentation on them when we got lost, as you do in the Medina, and we stumbled upon a very touristy shop filled with camels and pottery and stuff you find all throughout the Medina. Eventually, one of the shop owners decided to take us upstairs, and we had no idea why, but we decided to follow him anyway. And when we got upstairs, there was a room filled floor to ceiling with rugs of every shape, size, and color. And eventually, one of the shopkeepers took Bella away.
And initially, I didn't think I wanted to buy a rug, but then they were just throwing rugs at me, so I just had to buy one. They were even lighting them on fire to prove that they were fire retardant. So I had to buy one, and then things calmed down.
And they sat us down for tea, and they cleared off the table and brought us chairs, and they immediately stopped trying to sell us stuff and just tried to get to know us. They were asking us why we were here and where we were from, and they were overall very hospitable, but it was a very chaotic experience.
Just like our friends at the souk.
The souks is an open-air market that is set up every Thursday and Sunday. You can find fruit, vegetables, toys, toiletries, anything you could think of. So my friends and I set out on an adventure there with one of our professor's wives, Rebecca. But before we could get out of the front gate, Murad came up to us and handed us each 1 dirham. He gave us the challenge of trying to find something at the souks that only cost 1 dirham.
When we got there, we definitely looked out of place. We were searching to try and find something that we could get for the 1 dirham. Stand after stand we passed, with the workers trying to talk to us in French, Spanish, Arabic. We knew nothing, and they weren't able to speak English to us either. And every time we passed by a truck, they would cut fresh fruit right out of the back and give it to us, but we could not get anything for 1 dirham. And then eventually Rebecca helped me bargain down for a small cucumber.
Walking through the narrow paths of the souks, I found an old guy with a great smile on his face selling some apples, so I decided to go up to him. I immediately knew he wasn't able to speak English, so I pulled up my dirham and pointed to the dirham and pointed to the apple to try to figure out if he would sell me an apple for 1 dirham. Immediately, he was frustrated, so he went to the apples, pulled out a bag, started putting the apples in the bag. So I walked away with 8 apples and paying 10 dirham and failing at Murad's test. This was the first time we ever went to the souks.
So right off the bat, we had a lot of really strong impressions of Morocco. Another great aspect of studying abroad has been service learning or volunteering. While we've all had different experiences, we've come up with a few similarities. The first one being that we would meet a lot of interesting characters along the way. The first one that stuck out in our minds was Kate's first day at Clinic Assalam.
So my very first day at Clinic Assalam, I realized almost immediately that it was going to be nothing like I had ever experienced back at home. As soon as I got there on my first day, I was rushed into an operating room and told to stand in the corner. Very few people spoke English, and I had just gotten here, so I didn't know much Arabic myself. As I was standing there, I was looking around at the nurses doing their jobs. They were laughing, talking, preparing the patient for surgery. And I looked around even more, and there was a TV on the wall playing a Moroccan music video on YouTube that everybody was singing and dancing along to. A few minutes later, the surgeon walks in the room oozing swagger as he was wearing a shirt with his face on it, and I had to struggle to hold in my laughter as it was nothing as I would ever expect seeing in an operating room. I knew immediately he was going to be a character. So he got ready for surgery, gowned and gloved up, and started the procedure, which I quickly realized was going to be a liposuction. And as he was doing the procedure, he finally realized about 20 minutes in that I was standing in the corner and hadn't said anything yet at all. And he started talking to me, asking like what I was studying, how old I am, like where I'm from, the normal stuff. And then he got right back to work. A few minutes later, he was suctioning some of the fat out of the patient, and some of the fat actually got onto his bare foot because he wasn't wearing socks with his shoes. And so immediately he shook off his crock, and one of the nurses ran over with a piece of gauze and wiped it off. And he put his shoe right back on, and through the entire thing, he never stopped the procedure. He never stopped suctioning. And I knew from that moment on that it was gonna be a crazy experience every time I went to Clinic As-Salam. And I know that some of my friends who volunteered at the vet clinic had some interesting experiences as well.
As animal behavior majors, we got the really awesome opportunity to work at a vet clinic down the road. The first day we went, Rania came as our interpreter, and she told us that the vet asked right away if we were ready for surgery. We laughed because we didn't think he was serious, as we had never done this before. We realized shortly after he was not kidding when he brought us over to the dog and gave us all of the tools to start the surgery. We laughed and told him that we had no idea what any of these tools even were because we had never done this, and he told us we'd be doing it next time. This was a little bit challenging because we had a large language barrier as they didn't speak English, but we got through it with using facial expressions and our body language, which caused a lot of laughter the entire time, and every time we did something that they liked, they would just tell us bravo, and we would just laugh.
All semester long, we were suturing, giving shots, spays, neuters, surgeries, and all of the above. We made wonderful connections, and we were so thankful that UNE was able to make us volunteer at the clinic so we can create all these connections.
Our friends at the orphanage also had some really good hands-on experience.
So Moore and I had the privilege of getting to volunteer at the orphanage in Tangier this semester. Our first day, we really had no idea what to expect. We weren't sure how hands-on we would get to be and what we would be doing. But when we got there, we realized that most of the staff didn't speak English, so through a lot of hand gestures, we made our way to the playroom, and we were introduced to about 12 of the toddlers there. We also met the physical therapist, and he taught us a bunch of exercises to help us with the kids that were learning to talk and walk and everything, so that was really fun. And on that first day, I remember seeing this little boy. He was kind of off to the side, lying on his back. And I went over to say hi to him. And when I looked at him, he looked up at me with the biggest brown eyes. And he had this little pouty face. And I was just like, he is the cutest thing in the world. I absolutely love all of the kids there. They are so adorable, but he might be my favorite. Every day that I go there, I try to make sure that I can see him so I can see his smile because it just makes me so happy every time. And I've really loved getting to spend time with the kids. Even though I don't get to see them all that often and I don't speak their native language, I can still play with them, pick them up, hug them, and call them Habibi, which means my love in Arabic.
My favorite day at the orphanage, we were in the playroom with about 10 or 12 toddlers. They were all either walking or crawling, and it was just very loud and chaotic in the room, especially when two of them started crying at the exact same time. So Alicia and I each picked up one of the babies to try to soothe them and, help them stop crying. And I don't know what made us do it, but we just looked at each other and started singing the alphabet song. Alifun ba'un ta'un tha'un jimun ha'un ha. And immediately, both our babies stopped crying, and every single other toddler's heads whipped around and looked at us, and were just memorized by us singing the alphabet song 2 or 3 times over and over again. And it was the most quiet that room had ever been. And to me, that was just a really special day, and definitely one of my favorites. And overall, volunteering at the orphanage has been such a special experience. And I know my friend Sophie also has a special experience at the clinic.
I'm now going to tell you guys a short and sweet story about one of my favorite experiences while volunteering at Clinic As-Salam. So this particular week, I was feeling very overwhelmed with homework, I was stressed out in exam, and I was feeling very homesick. But I still went to the clinic anyway, and I'm so grateful that I did, because this particular day, I got the opportunity to witness not one, but 2 C-sections. It was such a beautiful moment, And being able to see these babies take their first breaths of life enter the world was something that I will never forget. I have to be honest, I cried a little bit in the OR, and I will cherish this memory forever.
As you can tell, we all beam with pride when we talk about our service learning and our volunteering here in Morocco. We had the incredible opportunity to have these experiences which we would not have otherwise had in America. Although we've had so much fun here, we've also had to overcome some challenges. But with every challenge, we were happy and cheerful through it because after all, we'd have stories to tell our family and friends back home, and we were in Morocco. So what better place to deal with these challenges? My friend Hannah is going to tell her story about her experience with one of our on-campus cats.
So, as we all know, here in Morocco, stray animals are pretty much everywhere. Anywhere you go, you are bound to encounter a stray dog or a stray cat. And the chances are I'm going to be petting every single one of them. So on campus, there are 2 stray cats that are pretty frequent flyers. One of them is definitely a lot crazier than the other one. The crazy one we have nicknamed the Jumping Bean. We gave him this nickname because the way he jumps into your hands whenever you try to pet him. So one day, I was leaving the academic building on my way to go get lunch when Jumping Bean came towards me. Now, Bean is the cutest cat in the entire universe. He's absolutely adorable, so I couldn't help but pet him for a few minutes. But, however, as I went to leave, he decided it would be a good idea to bite me. And then he ran away quickly. Or very slowly, he ran away. So I looked down at the bite and I was like, oh, I should probably go see a doctor about this. So I immediately texted Dua and Rania about it. So Dua definitely made fun of me a little bit, and I definitely deserved it because she warned me constantly to not pet any stray animals. But she was still nice enough to bring me. So we went to the doctor, and I got the wound cleaned out, and I got a mysterious shot in my stomach, in and out in 15 minutes, all done. And then I decided a few weeks later it was probably a good idea if I went and got my rabies vaccine, since I had no idea where this cat had been. So Dua once again was kind enough to bring me, so I went to go get my rabies vaccine. Before I knew it, I had gotten 2 shots in both my arms, and it was over with. It was shocking. It was faster than I thought was humanly possible. At the very end of the visit, Dua looks at me and says, "Do you have a tip?" And I laughed because I thought she was making a joke. A tip for a doctor, that's not exactly something I'm used to back at home. But she was serious, so I pulled out 100 dirham, and that was the doctor's tip. Overall, it was a very confusing and chaotic and unique experience that I like to look back at and laugh. I know my friend Katie has a similar experience at the doctor's.
So my biggest challenge while being abroad has been my food allergies. I didn't really see this coming because I haven't had a big issue with it in the US, but with a new country and a new culture comes with a huge language barrier, as we've said many times. And so I tried to combat this by immediately learning hassasiyat luz when I first got here, which means I have an almond allergy. Unfortunately, let's redo that. Unfortunately for me, I didn't cover all of my bases, and one of the first weeks we went on an excursion, and when we got back there was a birthday party, and with that there were beautiful desserts everywhere that Karima and the team have made. Now me being a sugar addict, I couldn't control myself. So I start digging into the chocolate cake, it's delicious, and then my friend Carson says, "I think I taste hazelnut." The rest of the group is like, no, it's all in your head, and I think it's in my head too, but I definitely have a fever coming on at this point. And so I look at Carson, and I'm like, oh crap. So I try to collect myself, my anxiety is rising, my fever is washing over me, and I go talk to Dua, and I say, Dua, I think I might be undergoing an allergic reaction, but maybe not, and Dua goes, So we're gonna go to the clinic, and I know I'm in trouble. So on the taxi ride to the clinic, I was just really, really anxious, especially because with this new culture, I didn't know how the healthcare system was, and the language barrier was still in my head. How am I gonna communicate that I might be dying right now? And so we get there, and luckily for me, I was met by these 2 staff members in maroon scrubs and big smiles. They opened me into their workplace and were so welcoming and brought me back to this room. And the only thing that was in this room were there was a desk, there was an IV pole, and there was a bed. And so I lay down on the bed, still kind of freaking out, but trying to hide it and not hiding it very well. These 2 nurses in bright blue scrubs come up to me and they ask if I'm okay. I give them a thumbs up and they jab me with a needle, but it was kind of comforting in a way. So that whole experience was crazy. Then the doctor comes in and is talking to Dua for like 5 minutes, and I know 0 Arabic at this point, so I have no idea what they're talking about, but I have this feeling that I'm gonna be okay. And so throughout this whole experience, while my anxiety was at the height, I knew that I was gonna be okay in this new home of mine. And you know, I'm not the only one that's gone through some challenges here. We've all had a few speed bumps along the way. And so we thought, you know, let's make the best of it. Let's tally up our misadventures from the semester. So we thought this would be fun. In total, we've had 7 allergic reactions,
2 pink eyes, 4 bumpies, 1 monkey bite,
17 COVID cases,
2 stitches,
5 animal bites,
10 jellyfish stings,
and 1 appendicitis.
And despite all of this, we've had a wild semester. One of our favorite parts of studying abroad has been the excursions we've been able to go on. We've been able to go on trips all throughout Morocco and one in Sevilla, Spain. And you know, all of these have just been bright in our minds, and we will never forget the memories that we've had. The first one that really stuck out to us was the Chefchaouen Festival of Colors.
On our weekend excursion to Chefchaouen, we all got the opportunity to stay with host families, which was so great. Mary, Bella, and I all got to stay with the same host, which was a great bonding experience and so much fun. Our hosts invited us to go to the annual Chefchaouen Festival of Colors, which we were so excited for, and we had no idea what was in store. After a long day of hiking in the woods and swimming in waterfalls, our host picked us up.
So when our host picked us up, they had 3 clean white shirts for us to wear, and we made our way to the Chefchaouen Medina. Once we got there and we made it to the center, there was a crazy party going on. There was pigments flying everywhere, and people were running up to each other and smearing each other's faces with color. And it was like a huge family, like none of us were strangers. It was so much fun.
As soon as we entered the center of the Medina, people were packed like sardines around each other. Everyone was dancing and laughing, having a great time, listening to the pounding music and the drums in a circle. Everything was so much fun. We were all taking selfies with strangers.
Overall, it was definitely one of the most memorable moments of my time in Morocco, and we have to thank our host family for being so gracious and letting us stay with them. And there have been other super memorable excursions we've been on, like the Sahara Desert.
Hello, yes. So our favorite excursion was the Sahara Desert. It was crazy. We arrived after a 14-hour bus ride, exhausted, and the entire weekend was so surreal. We stayed in this little retreat on the edge of the sands, and at one point even camped in the dunes. The yellow sands and blue skies just felt amazing and beautiful, and it was just so beautiful. Really, the pictures that I had seen on the internet up until this point did not do it justice in person. It was just such an amazing experience.
After a long day's travel, we were invited to a dinner and campfire from the locals at the hotel. Some of us went into the background while others played the drums. As we were laying out into the sand dunes, we were watching the thousands of stars in the beautiful night sky. All of a sudden, we stood up and screamed because we saw a shooting star. We were amazed, and this was just a great memory. We laid back down to watch the rest of the stars and the rest of the shooting stars, and we were about to fall asleep, but we knew we had a busy day the next day.
The next day was jam-packed with activities. We started out with an hour-and-a-half ATV ride, which I was initially terrified of, but it quickly became one of my favorite things. We then got on our camels and we rode to the tallest sand dune where we sandboarded and and we watched the sunset. Some of us were definitely better at sandboarding than others.
Oh, Ricky! Just use your hands to balance. Come on, Ricky, let's go!
That was rough.
Okay. But after that, we got back on our camels and our amazing guides brought us back to our camp. Along the way, they kept taking pictures of us. We learned a lot about them, like they spoke 6 languages and they wear blue to keep them cool from the sun. Once we were at the camp, we spent all night partying. We sang Waka Waka by Shakira and danced to the Cotton Eye Joe.
We all agreed this was the best night of the semester.
It was. And while some of us were surfing on the sands, others were surfing on the waves.
On our excursion to Rabat, me and the other students were given the last-minute opportunity to go surfing. And as someone that has never surfed before, I jumped at the opportunity. So we woke up super early the day we were supposed to leave, and we all got on the bus and headed to the Medina. We found the Medina surf shop after a little bit of searching, and the host welcomed us in, gave us all wetsuits and boards, and brought us straight to the beach. Once we got there, he gave us a 10-minute lesson on surfing before he encouraged us to get into the water. All of the staff, once we got into the water, were helping us get onto our boards and pushing us as the waves came, and they were so helpful during the whole thing. After a lot of trial and error, some of us were finally able to stand up on our surfboards, and it was a super memorable experience.
I also had a similar experience while surfing in Tangier. I heard a few students were going surfing next to Cape Spartel. So it was a little tricky finding it at first because we only had coordinates to this place. So we had an us bring us. And then when we got dropped off, we were instantly greeted by a bunch of very friendly dogs. And then we were searching for the place, but after a while we found it, and it was an old van filled with surfboards and wetsuits. And then we met with the instructor. He gave us a little instruction on how to surf. And then we got in the water, and yeah, some of us fell a few times, but we all got up, and we just had an amazing, peaceful time surfing.
After Rabat, we thought that our semester adventures were over until Morocco beat Belgium and started making history in the World Cup.
For that first game, we got a text from Dua that we would be watching it in the living room all together. And when we got down there, the whole place was decorated with flags and balloons, and the kitchen staff had made us a bunch of good food, and they had gotten candy for us, and we got to watch the game all together as a group. It was so much fun. Dua taught us the word to say when Morocco's getting close to scoring. Seer, seer, seer. And it was our first time experiencing that camaraderie and pride for Morocco, and we were so excited when they beat Canada and made it on to the next round.
The next round was against Spain, which is a huge rivalry. We ended up getting surprised again by Dua and Rania. We actually had a few of them, and they had got us tickets to go watch at a local cafe, La Fuga. They also surprised us with our own jerseys and face paint. So we got all done up, and we headed on over to watch the game. We had our own section where we ate food, we got some drinks and gelato, and we were watching the game. Unfortunately, every once in a while, the internet went out, and we missed a few parts, but it was okay because they tied at the end 0-0 and had to go to penalty kicks. Thankfully, we have the best goalie ever. Bono, Bono, Bono! And we were able to win and make it on to the next round. This was the start of history because this was the first Arab team to make it this far. After the win, a bunch of us went out to the streets where there was a huge celebration. There were fireworks and flares and just a lot of good times. When we were there, we took pictures with the locals, we bought some flags from a local vendor on the side of the road, and we had a genuinely really great time. We also got an interview at the end.
Hi, my name is Trina, and I'm so happy to be here in Morocco.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm American, and I'm so happy to be in Morocco for the win.
Okay, we're including that. Okay. After the next game, we were going against Portugal. All of our tension was really, really high because we were playing Ronaldo, and he's really good. And so, Dua and Rania surprised us again, and we went back to La Fuga. We all got back in our jerseys that we got and made our way over. We sat in the same spot, and we had the same food, and it was amazing. Tensions were really high the whole time until Morocco made a goal right before halftime. And then during the rest of the game, we were on the edge of our seats to see who won, but Morocco pulled through. Afterwards, a few of us went back out to the streets. We thought it was crazy the first time, but this time was even crazier. We ran into fireworks, and we even ran into some acrobats where some of our friends got to be a part of their stunt. After that, we were just walking down the streets, and we actually ran into the same vendor that we had bought flags from the day before. And we actually bought cute little bucket hats to match our flags. Afterwards, we stopped someone that was riding in the motorcycles with the trailer in back, and we asked if we could have a ride, and he surprisingly said yes. So 8 of us hopped in the back, and we rode around the town for an hour.
After that really exciting win where Morocco became the first African country to ever make it to the semifinals, we were all so pumped for the game that was last night, the semis against France. It was a very highly anticipated game, and so once again we returned to the cafe and we were watching it with everyone. And unfortunately, Morocco didn't win, but it's okay because we are still so proud of them for making it this far, and it was still a really amazing game to see. And I know personally, I'm just really grateful that I got to be here and witness history and be with the Moroccan people as they get to celebrate this really exciting time. And I know that I will always cheer for Morocco.
As you can tell, we've had the most absolutely incredible semester here in Morocco. Our friends had told us before we came that our time abroad would fly by. Unfortunately, they were right, and we leave to head back to America in a mere 2 to 3 days. However, we wouldn't change any experience that we've had here for the world. We have created memories to last a lifetime and had experiences that all of us will take with us to the grave.
No matter what happened this semester, we have had so many adventures that we, like Grace said, will carry with us. When talking about what we've learned, however, we've come up with one really big takeaway, which is, no matter where we go in life, Morocco will follow us. Whether it's a Moroccan art show in Toulouse, France, to an Arabic-speaking Uber driver in Paris, to a Moroccan tattoo artist in Paris, and finally to getting stitches in London and having a Moroccan save the day. We were never far from our second home. Now, with that being said, this semester wouldn't have been as amazing as it has without all of the individuals and people who have helped us get this far.
With that, we have a few thank yous we'd like to show our appreciation for. To Dua, our program manager, thank you for putting your blood, sweat, and tears into building this program from the ground up. We know that it's been stressful, but we're all here today because of you and the hard work you've put into this program.
To Rania, our program coordinator, thank you for putting up with us on and off campus. We know you've dealt with a lot of shenanigans, whether it's been loud music, to taking us to doctor's appointments, to just being there for us through our highs and lows. We see everything you've done, and we love you, and thank you so much.
To Murad, our campus manager, hi. Thank you for making sure that this semester went by smoothly. Our campus is beautiful because of the hard work you put into it, and we were able to call our friends and family back home because of your constant help putting phone plans on our phones for us.
To Anwar, Professor Amin, and the rest of our staff here at UNE, thank you for making this program what it is. We wouldn't be here if this program didn't exist, and we are just so grateful for all of the knowledge you've given us, from the culture to stories to anything else that we've learned. We couldn't have even imagined what we would do without you guys, so thank you.
To Karima, the kitchen staff, the security guards, and Anas, our wonderful taxi driver, thank you for welcoming us with open arms. You truly made us feel at home and gave us the true taste at Moroccan cuisine and safety here on campus. So thank you. We cannot say that enough.
And finally, to our friends and family, wherever the heck you are, thank you so much for watching this performance and supporting us throughout this whole semester. None of us could have really prepared for the impact that Morocco has had on us, but we are so grateful for the constant support and the fun, ups and downs, and yeah, we just can't put it into words. So thank you, everyone. Now, before we go, we all have one last thing to say.